In a chain of videos exploring different concepts of Destiny and evolving its gameplay, another comment had an idea I wish to explore further once again. Props to HunterUmbra in the comments of the Combined Elements video for the interesting idea. For the context, the video I mentioned was covering the combination of Destiny elements and if an array of hybrid elements could be the key to developing past the 3 dark, 3 light, and 1 prismatic subclass of Destiny 2. Of course, that third darkness subclass is in limbo right now, but for all intensive purposes, if Destiny 2 is to end, it should end with the 7 subclasses available with that third darkness element. But I digress. I'm sure some of you have noticed by now, but I am sounding a little bit different. I'm messing around with my audio software and some things were unselected, so at the current, this video is mostly my straight up mic with no sort of filters, so if I sound different, this may just be a one-time thing, I'll just have to see how it goes. The idea HunterUmbra proposed was instead of new elements, why not let us have fun with the elements we already have now? Essentially, they wish they could use the abilities they want to, but with different elements and subclass verbs in action. For instance, Hunter, in their comments, said they love Night Stalker, however they wish instead of Shadow Shot, they could instead have a void version of Silence and Squall from Stasis Hunter that suppresses and weakens. I mentioned the First Blade Impact doing a suppression blast and the Wandering Storm doing weakening damage. Now, we must be a little open-minded about this. Initially, every element had its own identities and unique quirks. Case in point, every solar super ability is summoning a physical weapon infused with solar light. Most arc abilities are some form of lightning discharge directly from the hands, that one exception being that you had Arc Staff, that was the one weapon. Also, this concept is to be explored with the understanding that the element swap should only replace the original number of applied buffs and debuffs. Like I mentioned earlier, instead of a Silence and Squall having the first impact flash freeze and a second creating a slowing storm, the Void version would suppress and then create a weakening storm. For an alternate take, let's use Sunspots from Solar Titans. Initially created from hammer impacts and defeating scorched targets, either scorching and damaging our enemies or granting restoration upon entering the sunspot. A Void version of this would still create Void Sunspots on hammer impacts or from enemies killed with Void debuffs, when enemies touch the Void Sunspots either being weakened or making them volatile, but not both, one or the other, also granting Void Overshields to the person making the Sunspots upon entry. Now, we must take a second to evaluate how much development would be needed to make swapping out the original element on the various abilities with the other 4 elements possible. In truth, it sounds not too difficult on paper. On the surface, it is just swapping out visual effects and the various buffs and debuffs that are applied through the abilities. The animations can all be the same, with the descriptions only needing adjustment to account for the swapped verbs and elements. Below the surface is where the Bungie issues occur. After all, how long did it take for them to fix Shadow Shot and Vesper's Host? There would be a lot of testing needed to make sure all the abilities work as intended. Unfortunately, modern day Bungie isn't the greatest at testing or fixing bugs with any sort of speed. Oftentimes it seems like Bungie sets a deadline to fix a bug, then ignores it till they have no other choice but to fix it. Even still, Bungie seems to rely on the community for free labor in the testing department. In application, I could see this idea of element swaps only being on Prismatic. After all, Prismatic is already where you have command of 5 elements at once, so the idea of swapping the element used on an ability seems trivial in universe. However, some would argue Prismatic already shattered the idea of wielding multiple elements at once, but in reality I can see Prismatic allowing you to pick elements for each individual ability, but the single element subclasses getting a full swap. I.e., if you swapped Arc for Void, then the new subclass would be top to bottom Void damage and verbs, but the same attacks you'd get from using Arc originally. Plus, with a broad view, an element change doesn't do much aside from the obvious change of the element for sake of burns, shields, and whatnot, then also what buffs are applied via the abilities that apply them. Like if all the solar grenades were swapped to stasis, then they would apply slow instead of scorch, and the healing grenade would grant frost armor instead of cure, of course with speculation. We have also seen with Destiny Rising that Guardians seem to have free choice in how they manifest their light, or the light they are given is unique to every new Guardian. While elements are single choice, each character only having one element so far, the full array of characters have abilities unique to each Guardian, and so far unique to Destiny as a whole. Granted, of course, Destiny Rising is a completely different game in genre and playable character setup compared to the main Destiny games, but so far nothing would suggest Destiny Rising is a heretical imitation of the light we know normally. So combine the concept of individually manifested light from Destiny Rising and the mastered command of 5 elements from Destiny 2, what is to say Guardians can't wield light how they see fit? Plus, if Destiny has shown us anything, new light can be forged through sheer will. After all, the first Blade Barrage was born of the gunslinger Cayde 6 during the events of his first final death. Now to wrap it all up, the concept is relatively sound. Swapping elements and the associated buffs and debuffs would change how they are applied, but not much else in output. While on paper it all seems simple, the difficulty will lie in Bungie's development and testing capabilities, making sure all the swaps still function properly. The application could be best through Prismatic, since you can already pick and choose what elements are where in your loadout, but also still be effective with swapping elements for entire subclasses. And lore-wise, it wouldn't break many rules based on various in-game examples. The biggest concerns would be twofold. Chief among them, whether or not Destiny 2 would survive long enough for Bungie to make an element switch out mechanic. Unfortunately, there is no good way to gauge its true lifespan right now. Sure, Bungie has plans for the future, past Renegades, but the lowest point in Destiny history in more ways than one, the pressure of developing Marathon alongside the force fire that is current state Destiny 2, we really don't know how long Destiny will last officially. The other concern will be possibly no matter at all, but the potential of ruining a foundation of Destiny in a way. After all, subclasses were a single-wielded element at a time since the start and did not change, that is till Prismatic happened, so it's entirely possible this metaphorical dam has already been broken. Either way, what do you think about this free choice of used elements? In truth, I think it wouldn't be too broken. Like I said, we already have practical free element choice with Prismatic, so being able to choose your preferred abilities with your preferred element would open subclass freedom more than ever. Case in point, I love what Smoke Bomb does. I hate Smoke Bomb in its performance. I'd love the idea of a weakening smoke delivered through a thrown knife on the Void Gunslinger. If you love the Arc subclass effects on Warlock but would rather have a quick fire super, swap Nova Bomb to Arc. Want some Void debuffs but want a super that kills from a further distance? Try Void Hammer Titan. That all being said, this is the end of the video. Another concept to potentially spice up the future of Destiny, if there is a future beyond the Fortnite crossover DLC that is Renegades. Let me know in the comments down below if there are any other concepts you want me to take a pass at. If you enjoyed, a like is always appreciated, and if you didn't enjoy, I thank you for watching this long anyways. Subscribe to stay in the loop of when I upload, but on that note, my name is TheMadScorpyon, and I will see you in the next video.